Charlie, I'm happy to be here with you today as always. And I've had a bit of an emotional day today.
Yeah,
And
yeah, you have.
I have. And I'm wearing a suit because I just met with my bishop and stake president, and I met with them separately because about a month ago I was denied a temple recommend. And yeah. And it's been a whole process. And I'll just tell the story.
Okay.
So about a month and a half ago, my friend and I went to the temple on a Friday night. We went to the Payson Temple, which is a long drive for me. It's like a half an hour. And when I got to the temple, I pulled out my recommend, and it had expired 2 weeks before. I just hadn't.
Had that ever happened to you before?
It actually had happened once when I was living in Tucson. And I like drove all the way to the temple. It was like 2 hours. I was like, oh, shoot.
So it was good that Payson wasn't actually that far.
Yeah, that was good. And so I was like, oh shoot. So then I set up a meeting with my bishop for the I texted the executive secretary. I was like, hey, I'd like to meet with the bishop to set up my to get my temp recommend renewed. And so I went in to meet with him, and I assumed that the reason he wanted to meet with me was like my board is so high functioning, like they're very on top of things. And I thought, oh, they noticed my recommend had expired, so they were calling me in to like get it renewed or like to talk about it. So I walk in thinking I'm going to walk out of this meeting getting a temple recommend. And the first thing he did was he asked how I was doing with my mom and her passing, and which was so kind. He's like reached out to me a bunch. He's been wonderful about that. And then after that, he said, well, the stake president recently got a letter from someone who said that you had performed a same-sex marriage. And I called you in to get some more information about that. I was asked to get find some facts. And so, did you perform that marriage?
Can I ask like what you felt? Because that's like a huge switch up. You're like expecting to go in for this like routine ecclesiastical meeting, and then it's like, boom, kind of in trouble.
Yeah. My heart sank. I was not expecting it. Like if you had listed all the things that were possibilities of like what this meeting was about, that wasn't even on my radar. Because I had performed the marriage like more than 6 months before. It'd been a very long time, and so I didn't expect it to happen then. I thought it would have, if I was going to get in trouble, I thought it would have happened sooner.
Yeah. Were you worried about getting in trouble?
No.
Back then, like when you performed the marriage?
No, not at all. Because I talked to my previous stake president about whether or not I could perform a same-sex marriage.
Because this was before you switched from single adult single ward to family ward. So different stake president?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd asked him if I could, and he said, well, there's no policy about that, but he's like, I would discourage it, but there's no policy. So I was like, okay, I if I feel it's appropriate, then I can.
So there is a policy, because like bishops and stake presidents can't perform
Bishops and stake presidents
marriages.
cannot perform same-sex marriages, but I am neither of those things.
Yeah, so there's nothing.
I'm just a regular member.
You're just a regular old Ben.
Just a regular old Ben. So he asked me some questions. Like, yes, I did do that, and then I started to feel like I was getting attacked.
Yeah.
And he wasn't attacking. I just like felt like I just got like in defense mode, and I was like, yeah, and I'm not sorry I did it. I got a little too defensive probably.
Zesty.
Yeah. And he was super kind. He said, hey, and I said, also my recommend expired. I'd like to get a new recommend. He's like, well, I don't know if you can. Let's go through the recommend questions. So we did, and I answered all of them. And honestly, one of the thoughts I had was like how silly it seemed, because I pay my tithing. I believe in Jesus. I believe in the restoration. Like I live the law of chastity. I keep the word of wisdom. Like all these things I do. And I was like, is this not enough? Like, are these things not enough? And then I said, well, I want to meet with the stake president. So I reached out to the executive secretary, the stake executive secretary, to meet with the stake president. I met with him that Wednesday night, and just a couple of days later, and this is only the second time we'd ever talked.
What were those few days between those meetings like?
The few days between were kind of scary because I didn't know what was going to happen. So I had this meeting with my stake president, and I was nervous going in, but I was feeling confident. And I had an article from a few years ago that quoted Elder Christofferson saying a couple times that members can have temple recommends and support same-sex marriage. So I was like going in ready to convince him like, hey, what I did wasn't a problem. It's okay. And so I read him all those quotes, and he said, well, that's supporting a same-sex marriage, not performing one. And he really wanted to like why I thought it was okay to do that, and also was I promoting it? Was I encouraging other people to be in same-sex marriages? And and I said, well, I'm not going to tell anyone to get in any kind of marriage. Like I believe in agency, and I let people make their own choices.
Yeah.
But the couple I married, they're two of my very best friends. Like one of them, she and I have known each other for like the last 8 years. She spent Christmas with my family. She's like a sister to me. And so when she asked me to marry her and her fiance, I was like, of course, like I'd be so honored to be part of this. So I didn't even think it would be a problem. Now suddenly it was this problem. And so my bishop had asked me the temple recommend questions. My stake president didn't. And he said he needed to talk to the area authority about it to get some more guidance. And so I left, not knowing what was going to happen.
Wow. That's like a huge switch up.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things I told my stake president was like, I didn't hide this. I made a post about it on social media. Thousands of people saw this months ago.
You're like, I'm an influencer.
I did not use those words. And if I did, I would have said micro-influencer. I have fewer than 100,000 followers.
You're micro-influencing people to perform same-sex marriages. No. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for making that joke. Oh,
I am not. I'm just sharing my life with people. And participating in that wedding and that marriage was like such a thrill for me, and really such an honor, because I just love these two people so much, and I know their families well and have had like good interactions with their families, and it just was like this room of people that matter to me, and this beautiful moment where two people I love are coming together, and I got to be part of that. Like it just felt like I got to be part of the celebration. And actually the tie I'm wearing right now was the tie that they bought for the wedding. And
it's very cute.
That wasn't on purpose. It's a very spring tie. And
it is a very spring tie.
Like it very much.
Were you worried when you posted about some sort of pushback?
No.
Like, could you ever have anticipated? Did you know the person who sent this letter? Like, were they?
No, I didn't know them. I wasn't expecting any pushback. Because I'd already talked to my previous stake president about it, and there was no policy. So I didn't expect it to be any kind of problem at all.
And like,
and one of the things I told my bishop and stake president when they're like, oh, we don't know if we can issue you a recommend. I said, well, the wedding was more than 6 months ago, and I've gone to the temple a few times a month since then, and I felt completely worthy to be there every time. I personally have no hesitation going to the temple. And they said, well, we need to get more information.
I need to check myself, because I'm feeling very frustrated at the type of person that takes the time to track you down, track your leaders down, and write a letter. I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't love that either, but it happened, and it has a real consequence for me in my life.
As you're telling the story, I'm looking at you, and you're 41, you're in a suit, you have graying hair, you have a loud voice, you have a very loud voice, you project, you're a teacher.
I do, especially at restaurants I project. Anyone in the restaurant can hear me.
And I'm just kind of thinking about this person in that situation that you're talking about that feels, honestly, when you were saying I'm scared of you, it felt kind of, am I allowed to say childish? Like a little kid.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just think that's interesting that this grown man goes into a situation and then feels I can't imagine how caught off guard you must have felt, and how powerless. And there is a power dynamic there, right? A lot's out of your control.
Yeah.
What was that like to sit there and present as a man, but feel like a scared kid?
It's interesting that you describe me like that, because I'm an imposing person. I'm tall, and when I wear a suit, I look very authoritative. In that moment, I just felt small.
Why?
Because this decision was out of my control. And I felt like I felt like it didn't, I'd already done the thing, the thing had already happened. And so I just felt out of control.
What do you do there? Were you trying to explain why, or were you trying to convert him to see your point of view? Did you just let whatever happen?
Yeah, I I went in wanting to get my temple recommend. And so I was hoping that I could convince him. I went in hoping to convince him that I could get a temple recommend. And when I talked to my bishop,
to prove your worthiness.
yeah, when I talk to my bishop, like when I get nervous, I get like a really dry mouth, and I hadn't taken any water, and so I just like by the end I just like had cotton in my mouth. It felt like.
Do you need some water right now?
I know I'm good. But with my stake person, I like took in a bottle of water. I was like, I'm prepared. I'm gonna speak well and gonna take care of this. And then when I walked out of his office, I realized, oh, he didn't ask me the recommend questions.
Oh,
Like we didn't even do the thing I went in there for, and. So I was going to mention that to him. I was going to like email him that night, but his email wasn't listed on LDS Tools. So I was like, oh, I guess it's just like out of my hands. And he told me, he's like, hey, we don't want to keep you in limbo. We want to get this figured out as quickly as possible.
yeah.
Yeah, but I felt small and out of control. Like, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Like super disempowering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then,
and I don't know, I feel a little frustrated, obviously, because I care about you and I know how much you care about your worship. But I just feel frustrated that like there's nothing in the handbook, like the lack of policy direction there. That I don't know, maybe it's because I feel this in a lot of aspects of my life, but other people don't think about it. I think like, oh, there doesn't need to be a policy about that because that doesn't happen. Like church members don't perform same-sex marriages. Gay people aren't members of the church. These are two separate things. But because of that lack of foresight, I don't know, like there's this hole in the policy that directly affects someone like you. And then you show up there and they're like, ooh, we don't know what to do with that. That's gotta feel super isolating.
Yeah.
Like you're a problem because you're a problem and nobody knows what to do with you because nobody ever has, you know?
Yeah. And you know, I talked to him before because I was scared of him. And then he showed me a reason to be scared of him. And I left.
Are you worried that he's listening to this?
No. I'm not. I don't think
he's not the target demographic.
I don't think he's going to listen to this. But if he does, I mean, I told him how I felt tonight too. So, yeah. But I remember walking out of there and this was one of the reasons I felt isolated. So I told you what had happened. I told probably 20 people. I'm very open with everyone about everything going on in my life. Like I just tell, like, how are you doing? And I just like tell people what's happening.
Yeah.
But I didn't tell many people about this just because I knew people have strong feelings about it. And I didn't want to have to deal with their feelings too. And I also didn't want to have to like retell a bunch of people. I didn't want people checking up on me like, hey, what's going on? I just wanted to like, I felt really bad about it, but I also felt like it's going to work out.
Well, I wonder if you needed to process too.
But I process verbally, like I process by talking to people. So that's why I would want to tell people, but I couldn't. And so, but everyone I told, you know, like they have feelings about this as well. And so their own feelings come up too. Yeah. And so I just felt like this is something I have to do with just a handful of people. And the couple I married, I didn't tell them for like 3 weeks what was going on.
Why not?
Because I didn't want them to feel bad. I didn't want them to feel like it was their fault.
Yeah. Do you think they're also subject to the same scrutiny though? I would say absolutely yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Just knowing how I feel.
Yeah, I just didn't want to put that burden on them. And I felt like this story was like a burden to people.
Huh. Tell me more. Say more about that.
Yeah. When you give someone a chance to like confront what they believe, that can be a jarring thing. And I wasn't sure I wanted to give people this opportunity to like confront like, what do I think about this one thing, but also
about gay marriage,
about performing a gay marriage.
Okay.
But also, what do I think should happen when there isn't a specific policy written? And I didn't want people to like lose faith in priesthood leaders or like the process because I felt like I was being forgotten and punished. Yeah. Some of the people I told were like, I'm getting a little emotional right now for some reason.
Please let it.
People were like, Ben, you love the temple so much. Why shouldn't you be able to go? Like, you pay your tithing, you go to church. Like, why shouldn't you be able to go? And it was hard for some of the people I told to know that I couldn't go. And then, like, I have a sister I minister to in my ward, and we go to the temple together sometimes. And she's like, "Hey, Ben, when can we go to the temple?" I'm like, "I'm kind of busy." And then my aunt reached out to me and was like, "Hey, the family's going to get together to do sealings of like our ancestors. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "I'll let you know if I'm available." And it hit me that I haven't had to think about those moments of like, I can't participate in this thing because I've always been able to. And then suddenly I realized this is something a lot of people have had to wrestle with for a long time.
Yeah.
A lot of people have not been able to go participate in things that matter to them, whether with friends or family, because they don't have dump recommends. And it gave me more compassion for people like you in that experience.
Yeah. What did the hurt feel like?
So the episode we recorded last month about why we need allies more than ever, we recorded right after I talked to my stake president. So it felt like everything I said in that episode.
Yeah.
It felt like I'm not sure I belong here. That's what it felt like. And it felt like, can I belong here? You know, as a gay person, like, can I fit in? Like, do I belong in the temple?
Mm-hmm.
It made me question a lot of, like, do I actually fit in here?
Did it make you not want to be there?
My initial response after I talked to my bishop was, none of this matters anymore. Like, I want to tell him I don't want to call in anymore. I don't want to go back to my ward anymore. Like, that was my initial response. Like, as I walked out of the chapel and like as I walked out of that office talking with my bishop, I ran into my elders quorum president in the parking lot. He's like, "Ben, have a good day." And I have a calling the elders quorum, and I almost said, "Release me." But like, I was feeling so much in that moment. And I didn't say that. And by the time I walked home, it's like a 5-minute walk to my house from the church, I had calmed down.
How does that happen? Because this is on the back of like 15 years of like stalwartly holding on to membership in the church for dear life. Mm-hmm. How does it turn on a dime like that?
Because I just felt they don't want me and they're never going to want me. And as much as I try, I can't convince them. That's what it felt. But by the time I got home, I was like, I'm not going to church for this reason. Like, this is why I go.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, but I still want to know more about that moment, because that's the moment so many people confront. Mm-hmm. That like, done. And I'm just so not surprised, because I see this happen a lot, you know, and I've felt things like that before. But I'm just so curious about that experience of like, I'm Ben Shalati, like, you have such like RM energy, you know, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Like, screw this.
Yeah. I think I felt attacked. Like, that was the feeling I felt. Like, I felt like I was in fight or flight mode. Yeah. And so I was like, well, I'm going to flee. Like, if that pain I just felt in that office, I don't want to feel that anymore, so I'm going to run away. I think that's what I was feeling.
That's interesting. Especially because like, it always fascinates me how good our nervous systems are at judging fight, flight, freeze. Mm-hmm. You know, like, we're super good at knowing, like, if it's a snake, you run. If a cat is scratching you, you like fight, right? We just intuitively know what to do. And it seems like something in you knew that if you fought this, or you couldn't win.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about that day, so when I got home, I immediately texted the stake executive secretary. I was like, I want to talk to the stake president today. Like, I want to get this figured out.
This is before?
So I talked to my bishop in the morning.
Okay.
And then I was like, I want to get this figured out right now. And he didn't respond for a few hours. And so I just like couldn't think. I tried to read. I couldn't focus. I went on a walk and listened to music, and it all just felt bland. I just was so worried. Like, I lost a day of my life. Like, that whole Sunday was just nothing, because I just couldn't focus on anything. I just was like so preoccupied by this. I just couldn't do anything. And I had stuff I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to read. I wanted to like talk to my friends, but all that I just couldn't.
It's so distressing.
It was really jarring. Yeah. I know I like talk really emphatically, but like, I'm feeling like a lot of emotions right now. Like, I'm not angry. I'm just like emphatic, because I just have a lot of feelings.
Yeah. Well, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And
can I ask another question?
Of course you can.
Well, I guess maybe this is just another way to ask the same thing, but like, what is it like to have something that you love and hold dear be the thing that hurts you and causes distress?
Yeah. I've had that same thought before.
You actually asked me that last
Yeah.
month.
Yeah. I'd say it's really painful, but at the same time, I don't really know how else to live. You know, um, I can't just choose not to have the beliefs I have because I do believe
Is
them.
that true?
I think so.
Because I know a lot of people would say, just remove the source of your distress.
Yeah. But what if the thing that's distressing you is also really good for you? You know, and I think, and honestly, I feel it's like this with any human relationship. You know, when you have someone in your life that you love, they're going to hurt you. If you have a relationship with another human being, they're going to cause you pain. And that's just a reality of life. And so I don't expect church to not be painful, because it's involving humans, and humans are going to cause me pain.
So there's like a certain demographic I'm thinking who would hear you say that and bring up like placating an abuser or like Stockholm syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to them?
Yeah. I honestly don't even know what I would say to that. I would just say that maybe that's just something I can't answer right now.
Yeah.
But what I do know is I know the things I've felt as I've engaged in the gospel of Jesus Christ, as I've engaged in the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-Day Saints. And there are a lot of really good fruits I really enjoy, but also it can be really tough.
Yeah.
And I don't like, my worldview doesn't mean that just because something is painful or hard, or maybe doesn't fully see me, means I need to just jettison it. You know, I have, people in my life who I really love who are very problematic, but that doesn't mean I get rid of them. It means I learn how to engage in them in ways that are healthy for me and for them as well.
Yeah. And I think your agency there needs to be respected and honored.
Mm-hmm.
Like you, again, even though you feel like that boy, sometimes you are a 41-year-old man who can choose what systems he wants to interact with.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And yeah.
I had another question too. You talked about like not wanting to make people confront this, like to confront the belief whether or not they accept gay marriage or support performing a gay marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering, was part of that because you didn't want to hear their answer? Like, what if some of the people you love didn't support you doing that and were like, no, you shouldn't have your temple recommend?
Yeah. I think that was a fear I had. But mostly, like, in the advocacy work I do, I want people to talk to their LGBTQ loved ones. I want them to hear our stories. I want them to like love us. I want them to want to be part of our lives. But whether or not they believe or support same-sex marriage isn't something I terribly care about.
Mm.
So I wouldn't want that belief, like a lack of supporting same-sex marriage, to then hinder their relationship with their LGBTQ loved ones, or vice versa, their support of same-sex marriage and me in this case, to then hurt their feelings about their local leaders or their participation in the church.
And it's like, I don't know, I'm just maybe going back to that thing I was saying earlier of like, maybe it's because whoever's writing policy doesn't understand that someone like you exists. And,
Mm-hmm.
In a way, I have like a lot of compassion for that, right? Like if you don't anticipate something happening, you're not going to create policy to specify what happens when the thing you don't think will ever happen happens.
Yeah.
But it just always sucks to be in this position of like half in, half out.
Yeah.
And very like subject to being nudged in or out by a lot of different people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is hard. It's very hard. Yeah. So then 4 weeks passed and I had heard nothing. And I was starting to get a little worried. And also my stake president is getting released in a few days. So I was like, is this not going to get resolved? And then I'm going to have to like meet with the new guy, and like, is this going to take another month? And so I texted my bishop. I was like, Bishop,
It's like bureaucracy.
yeah.
It feels like, and I hope this sounds okay, but just all these little things, it sounds like doing my taxes, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it's all like, oh, also there's this form that you didn't know about that you kind of have to figure out now. I'm like,
Yes.
I just want to submit.
Also, got to remind you to do my taxes.
Yeah. Have you not?
No, I need to do that next week.
Am I on top of things?
You
Wow.
are. Yeah. So a month passes. I text my bishop and I say, hey, I just want to check in. I'd like to meet with you and the stake president on Sunday to discuss my temple recommend. I said, a month has passed. That feels like too long to me. And I said, to me, this feels like a simple thing. If I violated church policy, then I would like instruction on how to repent. And if I didn't violate church policy, then I would like to have a recommend issued.
So you're looking for clarity.
Yeah, I said I think it's one of those two things. And if I did do something wrong, then like minister to me and help me know what steps I need to do to get right with things. You're having a reaction.
Yeah. Like, how do you repent of your belief?
Well, I don't know.
Like, what does that look like? If they had said, yes, this is something you need to do to repent, what do you do? Denounce same-sex marriage?
I didn't know, but I if there was something I needed to do, I wanted them to tell me so I could go through that process.
Okay.
Yeah, so I couldn't even picture what that looked like. And he said that he was out of town, but he talked to the stake president a few days, and I was getting really frustrated, and I said, a few extra days, like even those few days is painful to me. Like this has been really hard. I'm ready for a resolution. Like I'm ready for some steps to move forward. So then Sunday rolls around, and it's my stake president's last Sunday because he's getting released the next Sunday. And
that's also like sticky.
Yeah, I thought, well, if we don't get this taken care of now, then nothing's going to happen. So I actually considered not reaching out to him, but I was like, might as well try. So I reached out to the executive secretary, and they set up an appointment for me for Wednesday, which is today. Today is Wednesday. So days later, and then this morning I got a text from my bishop, and he said that he'd like to meet with me before I met with the stake president. So I have a meeting with both of them today, and I don't know what's going to happen. Like I'm not sure if they're going to issue me a recommend or if they're going to say we need a disciplinary council. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if there was something in between. Like if it's just like, hey, we still don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm scared. Like as the day wore on, I just got like so nervous and tense.
What was today like compared to that other day where you like couldn't read or do anything?
It was different because I saw resolution coming, whereas that one I just felt like it felt more like depression, like when you just like can't get out of your bed, and this was more anxiety.
Interesting.
So the Sunday a month ago was like I'm depressed, and this was I am anxious. Yeah. That's what I felt. So I went to go see my bishop, and he said they'd heard back from the area authority and that I could have a recommend. And since I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to do that I just couldn't do it again. And
what did that feel like?
I was really hurt and pretty upset. Yeah, I was really upset. And my bishop is such a good man, truly. But it was really hard to just be like, oh, now it's over. Now you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, this thing that you had been building up and agonizing over had just like such a quick, like almost like sparkless solution. I don't. There's a word for that, and it's just sounds disappointing.
Yeah, and disappointing isn't the right word. It just felt. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. It felt kind of like anticlimactic, or it's like, oh, this is the resolution is we're back to where we were a month ago, basically.
Did it feel like the whole month was in vain?
It did. It kind of did. Yeah. It really did feel that way. And then the bishop asked me, we went through the temple recommend interview questions, and I answered them, and he was so kind. He was like, how are you feeling? What are you like? How can we be better as a ward? And I was like, I don't know. I'm just feeling, I said, I'm pretty upset. And I told him that I was feeling upset, and I shared everything I was feeling. And I said, and as I like got more heated, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let this go. Like, this isn't the time for that. I'm grateful. I feel like I'm grateful for the resolution.
Yeah.
And then I left and went and sat in my car, and then I just started crying. It's just like there's just a lot of feelings. Just like, I don't even know what I was feeling. I just like, there's just like so much I'd been holding in. And then I was like, I'm going to get my temp recommend tonight. And this has so sucked. It's been so hard. And I thought, like, how do I make this better? Like, what do I do? And I was like, I don't know. And my bishop asked, like, what can I do to minister to you? Like, what can I do to help? And I was like, could you read my book? I'd love to give you a copy. And he said, of course. And they said, what else? And I said, I love giving talks, and I've been in the ward for over a year now, and I haven't given a talk. I'd love to give a talk. He was like, yeah, we could do that.
That's so funny.
I know. I was like, this
Everyone else's nightmare.
such a simple thing, but that's the kind of thing that helps me feel connected, because then people can see me and get to know me, and yeah. So I had this moment of crying in my car, and then I drove to the stake center and met with the stake president, and I got there pretty early. I was there like, oh, there's something I didn't mention before. I talked to you like a few hours before I met with them, and you said, Ben, you should go to the temple and just like sit in the lobby. So I did that. I went and sat in the lobby at the Provo City Center Temple, and I was like, what am I feeling? What am I feeling? And the thought that kept coming to me was, you need to forgive these guys. Because I was so upset with them. And it was like, you need to forgive your stake president. And like get over these feelings of animosity you have.
How?
Do
you feel like you have done that? Like I'm very aware that it's been like an hour.
Yeah. I know, but I want to. Like I know in my head that they're trying their best, but I still feel hurt, and I think it's hard to forgive in the moment of that hurt.
It is hard to forgive and hurt.
Mm-hmm. But I want to get there. Like I want to run into the stake president at the grocery store and feel good things about him, and right now I don't want to see him. I don't want to have that feeling of like, I don't want this person in my life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's not super in my life, but even so.
Well, it sounds like that position represents that month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like an interview with the stake president, where it used to, maybe in the past, would represent getting a calling, having a check-in, now represents a month of pain.
Yeah. And I was hoping to go to the temple just like to feel peace. And as I walked away, like as I walked out of the temple, like to my car, I realized in order for me to feel peace, I'm going to have to forgive. And I'll get there hopefully soon. And I don't quite know how that works or how that happens, but that's something I'm going to be pondering about a lot. Mm-hmm.
Do you think it'll be hard to go to the temple?
I don't think so, because that was never the issue. But I don't know. I haven't gone yet.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it's an easy question, but I know you have this belief that if people get to know you and are able to like see who you are, then they'll like change their minds about what it means to be gay. Mm-hmm. It almost seems like for that month you were like, that belief was challenged. Like, maybe these people will get to know me and like go through all the proper channels, but also still maintain that fear, that distance, that feeling like this is something that needs to be like punished or quieted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that is part of what I felt. I felt like does what I do matter? And maybe this is maybe trying to get people to like be loving and kind and supportive of LGBTQ people and like welcome us into the congregations is a losing battle. Like I did feel that, but those are fleeting feelings. I don't usually feel that way, but sometimes you wonder.
Well, I'm actually glad you say that, because I don't think there's an LGBTQ member of the church alive that hasn't felt that. Mm-hmm. It's so painful when you like bare your heart to someone and they're like, I don't care.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that is a reality we face a lot. Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad that didn't happen with your leaders. And like is disappointing, and I'm so sorry, because I know what you mean. I don't know how to describe it, but that feeling of like all this agony ends in this like kaput. Mm-hmm. It's so, it feels invalidating. I don't know how to describe that, but I know what you're saying. And at the same time, I'm so happy that it was just that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So complicated.
It is so complicated. And like I just have naturally good mental health. Like my default feeling is like hope and optimism. And so it's weird for me when I don't feel those things. Like when I'm not feeling hopeful and optimistic. When I'm feeling like maybe what I'm doing is a waste. And I know it's not, but those feelings do come up. So once again, like not knowing what was going to happen tonight, I was going to like I asked for this meeting. The stake president didn't reach out to me. Like I asked for it, so I didn't know if he had like beforehand if he'd gotten any direction. So what I was going to do was say, hey, could we just talk about the temple recommend questions? And I, in my head of it, going through like all the answers, I was going to give him like the background information I was going to give for each of the answers. And so when we went through the questions, I didn't do any of that, and I thought it would be a good chance for him to get to know me, but I was like, I don't want to. I just want this to be over. And I walked in there thinking, I just talked to my bishop and I had shared how upset I was. I thought, with the stake president, I'm not going to do that. Like, we don't have a relationship. He's not going to be my stake president anymore. I just want to go through this motion. And then he asked how I was doing. And I said, honestly, I've been really scared. And he said, I'm so sorry you felt scared. Like, I wouldn't want you to feel scared. And I said, this is the third time we've ever talked. The first time we talked, I told you how scared I was. And the second time you said, I don't know if you can ever recommend. I said, how could you expect me not to feel scared? And he said, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for that to happen. I said, and I understand, but this is how I felt. And it's going to take a long time for you not to feel scared again.
I'm seeing some emotion come up.
Yeah, because the truth is I am scared. Like, I don't know what I'm going to get in trouble for next. And I know that, like, I didn't, like, quote unquote, get in trouble, but it was really terrifying at times. Mostly I felt good about it, but like I just like felt this peace, like it's going to work out. But still there was this, like, my life was significantly altered for a month, and I don't want that to happen again.
Yeah.
But I also want to live my life in a way that is filled with, like, that is in line with my integrity.
And it comes at a cost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. And that cost right now is I feel scared. Like I feel scared going to church.
You're not part of the crowd.
No. Mm-hmm.
And you're not even part of the crowd you used to be part of when you were in a small crowd.
Yeah.
Like, it is terrifying to stick your neck out
mm-hmm.
when you're in a powerless position.
Yeah.
When you feel like a kid at the principal's office, but and I hope I can make this analogy without it like crossing too much into like church or church policy, but I just know in so many ways I feel like a kid who didn't do it or like got the answer right and is like getting in trouble for the principal, like, no, like, I promise I didn't do this, like, I was right, like, but you just can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so disempowering.
Yeah. It really is. And I just feel so much compassion for the other people who are scared going to church, because I know a lot of people are scared. And honestly, I haven't felt scared. I felt like I didn't belong, but I wasn't scared. Now I feel scared.
It's scary.
Yes. Feeling scared is scary.
Oh no, it's scary when living a life of integrity and following your promptings makes everyone fear you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And still like showing up because of your integrity. And I think that's what I'd say. Like, going back to that question I asked you that you're like, I don't want to answer that right now. I don't know how to. Like, it's integrity on both ends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's my integrity to show up as a gay man, and it's my integrity to show up as a disciple of Christ.
Yeah. Like I'm a believer. Like, I believe in the restoration. Like, I believe in the Book of Mormon. I believe in Jesus. Like I'm a believer, and I want to be part of this church. So, yeah.
But you don't feel like the church wants you to be part of it.
I think they do. I just don't think they understand what they're doing to me. I think if you ask any church leader, do we want Ben Shalati in this church? They would all say, of course. But I don't think they understand that I'm scared. I don't think my stake president today understood why I was so scared. And I thought I could try and explain to him, but right now I just don't want to talk about this.
Yeah. I kind of felt something when you were talking about all the ways you were going to explain and like back up your answers to the temple recommend questions, and just how that relates to an entire lifetime of having to prove that you're not worthless.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that like we carry.
Yeah.
Like this insurmountable weight of, I have to prove my spot in society. I have to prove myself to you in order to receive your love, acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry for how normal that is.
Yeah.
For how normal it is to sit down and think, I know I can answer all these questions and I feel good about it, but I'm going to have to do all this extra mental work to prove.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that so many of us just, for me, that's like a tab that I always have running.
Uh-huh.
And I like, sometimes I'll notice it and close it out, but it just pops back up.
Yeah. And I had that thought. I was like, I shouldn't have to do this. I was like, but I do. And I didn't have to actually in the end, but yeah. Mm-hmm. That feeling like I have to prove my worth, it sucks. I'm wearing a suit right now. I don't usually wear a suit, but I was like, I have to look.
You have to look the part.
I have to look the part.
Did you wear the wristband?
Yeah, I did. I wore my rainbow
That
wristband.
surprises me.
Well, I don't want to like change who I am. I just want to be me in a suit.
I just want to gussy up.
Yeah. Can I just like share one last story about this experience as we close up?
Yeah.
So the week after I first talked to my bishops, this was 3 weeks ago, I was at church, and this woman who I've talked to a bunch, but we're not like terribly close, and she's older than me. She came up to me after sacrament meeting, and she said, Ben, I just wanted to tell you, I was in the temple yesterday, and I felt so prompted to put your name on the prayer roll. So I put your name on the prayer roll. And she said, so how are you doing? And I said, honestly, it's been a really terrible week. And she said, oh, do you want to talk about it? And I said, no, I don't. And then we parted ways. And then after church, I saw her again. I was like, I have to tell her. And so I found her and I was like, hey, just so you know, the reason you prayed for me was because I don't have recommend right now. And I told her everything that had happened. And she just like gave me a hug and she said, Ben, it's going to be okay. She said, the bishop is a good man. The stake president's a good man. It's going to work out. And I said, you're right. I know that. And then she said, I often feel prompted to put people's names on the prayer roll, but I don't tell them. She said, but I felt this morning that I had to tell you that I had to not only do it, but I had to tell you that I did it. And then it just like clicked in my head. And I said, thank you so much for being the person that reminded me that God was thinking about me and aware of me. And that was just like this really cool moment where I was like God's aware of me. You know, he's talking to other people and making sure I'm okay. And then every week I saw her after that. She said, my husband and I are fasting for you. And then when I got home last night, they had left a gift on my porch. And it was this big poster that said, you are loved. And it had like a rainbow design behind it. And like, I don't know any of their beliefs for like LGBTQs. I have no idea. There's like very faithful church members. And it had a note on it. And they said that, you know, they had just like been online on Etsy or something. They saw that and I was like, we have to get that for Ben. And one of them was like, I don't know. We're not like at a gift giving place in our friendship. And they said, no, we have to get this so Ben gets this message. So I got home last night with this big poster that said, you are loved. And I texted him, I was like, thank you so much. And today I pulled up to my church to meet with my bishop. And once again, like, I didn't know if I was going to be like excommunicated. Well, I know I wasn't going to get excommunicated, but like, I didn't know if I was like in more trouble or if I was like getting recommended. Like I pulled up nervous and she walked by. She was on a walk with her dog right then. And I yelled at her. And she like turned around. She said, Ben, it's so good to see you. And I said, I'm going to meet with my bishop right now. And she got emotional and she said, it's going to be okay. Like, we've all been praying for you. It's going to be okay. And it was. And after I talked to the stake president tonight, the thing that like made it extra special is she looks so much like my mom. Like she looks like a 50-year-old version of my mom. And, you know, I don't think that like, I don't know if that's special, but it feels special. It just like meant so much. And then I texted them. They were the first people I texted when I got out of the stake president's office because, you know, I wanted to like tell my dad, I wanted to tell you, but it just like felt like they were involved in this in a special way. And so I'm just really glad that God sends people to remind me that he's there and thinking of me, especially in his hard time. And so, you know, I'm going to go to church on Sunday and I'm going to feel a little out of place. And they're going to be there and they're going to hug me. And they're going to be so glad I'm there. And I'm going to know that God is going to keep sending people to take care of me.
The first person you told was Mom.
Yep.
That's so pretty.
Yeah. And she's not nearly old enough to be my mom, but she does look so much like her.
Well, and she took on that role of a mother.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who loves and cares and shows up. And I'm feeling emotional too, because last month when I couldn't go to the temple and I needed to, there were like 3 different people that I don't even really know. Like one of them literally is the lady who is doing laser hair removal on my neck. Like I've met her twice. And she said, I don't know if this is weird and I'm so sorry, but can I put your name on the prayer roll so that you can be in there? Like just a part of you can be in the temple. And that was so kind and creative. And I watched how a few other people thought of that. And that was really meaningful to me, because it hurts when you want to belong and worship and be in a place, and for whatever reason you're not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought it was really cool that month that you weren't allowed to go to the temple, you were still there because of her.
Yep. Yeah, it's really cool. And like the lesson I want to learn from all this is God is aware of me. He's aware of my desires, and he's working within my community to take care of me and support me.
Yeah.
That's what I want to remember. Mm-hmm.
Does that help you forgive them?
I think it will help me forgive them. I don't think the forgiveness is going to come tonight. I think as I write about this in my journal and process it, I think that'll probably help me with the forgiveness. I just the anxiety I felt all afternoon, like that's not gone yet.
Yeah.
And so I think it'll take me some time to like cool down, and then I think that'll come. Yeah. And like I really just do trust they were trying their best. And I understand that people trying their best can cause me pain.
Yeah. Are you scared at all, thinking about how this, even sitting down to record this, is further putting your neck out? You know, it's giving more opportunities for people you don't know to write concerned letters.
No, the only thing I'm concerned about is I don't want people to think that if we have a conversation, they're going to talk about it on a podcast. I don't want that. Because I don't, like, I want private things to be private.
Right.
But this is like a big moment in my life.
Why?
Because for the first time in my adult life, I couldn't go to the temple. And that was a big deal to me. And I know there are other people with similar fears, similar hopes, similar struggles. And I just want them to know that they're not alone. And if God cared about me enough to send a woman who looked like my mom to tell me that it was going to be okay, that they'll have their own little miracles too.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, of course. Thank you everyone for listening.